Keir, you believe the election was a rejection of the Prime Minister and that Labour can change course on Brexit. How would you exactly change course?
Well, we are clear that the Prime Minister took an extreme version of Brexit to the electorate, and she came back with a minority government, so she has to change course. What we would do straight away is to change the tone and approach. I think there's been far too much belligerence, a sort of message from the UK that it doesn't really need the EU. We would change that approach. We would emphasise that we've had a shared history, we've got shared values, and we need a shared future, and that therefore we need to move from formal membership, which is what was rejected in the referendum last year, to a new partnership based on collaboration and cooperation. And so there'll be that reset. I think what comes with that is a much higher emphasis on the benefits of the single market and the customs union. Many of these options were swept off the table by the Prime Minister in her Lancaster House speech. And so it'd be a reset and a different set of priorities. But most importantly, I think, putting jobs and the economy first.
You seem to be talking a lot about the tone and the language, but do you believe at this point single market membership would be completely off the table, even if you were in charge?
Yeah, I think we've got to distinguish between a discussion about models and a discussion about outcomes. For me, models are secondary. In other words, I think what needs to happen at the beginning of the negotiations is each side needs to say, this is what we want to achieve out of the negotiations, and the UK sets out its position. And Labour have been very clear about this in terms of no tariffs, no new red tape at customs, and something that works for services. And the EU, of course, has got its concerns about how do we make sure the UK doesn't sort of drop out of the regulatory zone altogether and therefore somehow undercut the EU. And they have great anxiety about sort of free trade agreements. So that's the discussion that needs to be had. Frankly, the model comes second. I think the mistake many people are making is thinking that you go into negotiations with a sort of set model. You put your model on the table and that's the end of the negotiations.
Right.
We've been very clear that we're talking about outcomes.